And if you were to look at the general Trinidad and Tobago diet or the general Trinidad and Tobago food environment, you would see that a lot of the foods that are popular in Trinidad and Tobago and are ubiquitous in Trinidad and Tobago, as in they all around us, everywhere you turn, you can see a lot of the foods have either saturated fat, trans fat, cholesterol, or any combination of the three in amounts which will tend to lead the food item towards negative health outcomes.
We're not really happy about that.
Hi, I'm Howard Spencer of Spencer's Whole Food Plant-Based Eats and Treats, where we believe that the path to good health is by simply changing your environment, especially your food environment. I recently came across a video from a creator by the name of Dr. Brown. Now, Dr. Brown is a local doctor here in Trinidad and Tobago who gives health tips and strategies on her Instagram channel, but more so on TikTok. In this video, she explained why she believed that doubles was a food item that should be avoided if one wants to lower his or her cholesterol. Just to give some context, the original video that she did, she highlighted some food items that people who are eating these items must avoid if they want to lower their cholesterol levels. Now, out of all the food items listed in that video, the food item which got the most pushback or which got the most questions was doubles. So she did this follow-up video.
And after I posted my foods to avoid if you want to lower your cholesterol video, the most popular comment was about doubles and not wanting to give up the doubles. I understand fully. I love doubles. I love doubles, right? For me, slight pepper, cucumber, sweet sauce, that's what I like. However, I also know that one double contains 343 calories. 343. That's a lot of calories. Eat two doubles, it's about, 686 calories. About 700 calories for the morning you've already consumed. And
if you were to look at one of my more recent videos, you would see that same sentiment being expressed about doubles, but how doubles is a very calorie-dense food. Trinidad doubles, calorie density 1,377 calories per pound.
what is the quality of those calories, you may ask? Well, 22% of them is fat. So in your breakfast meal, you've gotten 22% of your fat requirement, and most of which are your unhealthy saturated fats. We're not really happy about that. And this is just in one serving. So if you had two doubles, you would have had almost or close to 50% of your fat serving for the day. We do not like this. This is not something we want. The second thing is your sodium. Oh gosh, guys, look how much sodium in that. Right? 19% of your sodium intake for the day. Right? That is too much. Generally speaking, I recommend 1500 milligrams of sodium or less in a day. So you've done 33% of your sodium intake in one doubles. Right? Let's talk about...
Now, if anybody has been following my channel for a while, you would know that I have made quite a few videos about hypertension. And one of the things which I usually have in those videos is that the American Heart Association recommendation for sodium is 1500 milligrams per less a day. So therefore, Dr. Brown's recommendation is more in line with the American Heart Association and is more strict than the World Health Organization recommendation. And usually, people who consume 1500 milligrams of sodium or less a day, they tend to have less incidence of hypertension than those who consume more than that.
Doubles, right? Let's talk about carbohydrates. If you're asking what carbohydrates have to do with cholesterol or fats, let me tell you, When excess sugar is broken down, it's stored as fat and it could elevate your triglycerides. When you eat one double, you are getting 41 grams of carbohydrates. One. By the time you eat two, 40%. Some of it is some fiber, that's really good. And some of it is sugars. And we don't know where the other carbohydrates are coming from. So that's a question mark, question mark. Do we need to be eating so many carbs first thing in the morning? Last but not
Now let me clarify a possible confusing point here. Carbohydrates has usually been given a bogeyman aura, as in there are some people who have been confused and have been led to believe that all carbohydrates are bad, as in carbs and carbs, and if you have too much of them in one day, you are going to end up with some sort of chronic disease. There are mainly two classes of carbohydrates, at least in my book. One is the unprocessed carbohydrates, and you have the processed carbohydrates. The unprocessed carbohydrates are the carbohydrates that you would usually see in whole grains and starches. And when I mean whole grains, as in whole grains, so therefore foods like oats, like rice, especially brown rice, you have your starches, so therefore you have your potatoes, your sweet potatoes, your yam, your dashin, your cassava, your plantain, and so forth. Those kinds of carbohydrates are the carbohydrates which are beneficial for you because the carbohydrates are contained in a package in which they provide energy plus the essential nutrients for your body. And one of these essential nutrients, which is a nutrient which you don't necessarily take into your body, but it is very beneficial and it is very necessary for metabolic health, and that nutrient is fiber. And that is what refined carbohydrates do not have, such as the ones which you will find in doubles. In doubles, the carbohydrates which you will usually find are white flour. And white flour, you mainly have the fiber plus other essential nutrients removed. That is why usually in a lot of these flour and flour products, you usually will tend to see an enriched label on them, as in because the essential nutrients from these grains have been removed in order to make them healthier, nutrients are artificially added to them. However, one of the things which you would not get, especially in refined carbohydrates, is fiber. So therefore, what you have is that you will have a much greater and a much quicker uptake of these carbohydrates. And the carbohydrates without the fiber, which is what you will see in refined carbohydrates, those are the carbohydrates which will tend to spike your blood sugar and will usually tend to cause problems with blood lipids and so on. So, just to get that clear, and I hope that explanation will clear up some confusion which you have in your mind.
least to address it, it does have a level of protein. 8 grams of protein is pretty good, right? Especially from a source like chickpeas. I'm actually pretty happy with this protein. Ideally, you should be eating 0.8 grams per kilogram of your protein so you can get a healthy amount of protein at doubles. But is it worth all of the other things you're getting? For me, the answer is no. If you have to have a double, it's an absolute treat. Please eat with caution and in moderation. Thanks.
Or ideally, avoid it as much as you can, or make a healthier version of it, whichever one suits you best. Now, there's a lot to unpack with this video here. Now, I pretty much agree with everything that she just said there about doubles. Doubles, yes, there are a few redeeming qualities about doubles, but the baggage which is attached to doubles, especially on a dietary basis, it leans too much on the negative side for me to consider it a health food. Now, I know most people would not consider doubles a health food, but the thing about it is that people need to understand that every food that you eat, especially ones which you eat on a regular basis, bit by bit, day by day, it affects your health, and you may not realize it until it is too late. And that is why one of the most consistent messages that we at Spencer's Whole Food Plant-Based Eats and Treats have is that the food environment has to change if there is to be better health, whether it be for an individual, a neighborhood, a community, or a nation. Now, when we talk about doubles, there are some people who consider doubles as a national dish. And it is truly national in that sense because doubles is something which is ubiquitous to Trinidad and Tobago. From Chagaramas to Guayari, from Icacos to Toco, Tobago, and I'm sure from Castara to Charlottesville, somewhere in Tobago, you're going to find a doubles vendor somewhere within the vicinity or along the drive. Anybody who watching from Tobago, let me know in the comments below how prevalent doubles are in Tobago. It will be to the benefit of everyone, so you can see how prevalent doubles is in the Trinidad and Tobago environment. Now, doubles was one of the food items that Dr. Brown recommended that you avoid if you want to lower your cholesterol levels. The question may be, how does doubles affect your cholesterol levels in a negative manner? There are mainly three dietary factors that affect cholesterol levels. Saturated fats have been found to increase LDL cholesterol. Saturated fats tend to be found in red meat, in some cases even non-red meats. They have been found in processed oils, and they've also been found in full-fat dairy products. Just by the way, LDL means low density lipoproteins, which is a protein which carries cholesterol around the body. Now, trans fats, they tend to have a double whammy effect. They raise LDL cholesterol and they decrease HDL cholesterol. HDL meaning high density lipoprotein. These can be found in fried foods, processed snacks, and baked goods such as pastries, cakes, and cookies, and the like. Cholesterol, which has been found in animal products such as chicken, beef, dairy products, and so on, they can raise cholesterol levels in some people. For the general population, cholesterol usually tends to have a smaller effect on cholesterol levels than saturated fats and trans fats. But just to keep in mind, it is still a factor. Now, if you were to look at this picture here to my right here, you would see that the most prevalent fat in doubles is, you guessed it, saturated fat. And what was one of the dietary factors that increases cholesterol levels? Saturated fats. Saturated fats. And if one was to refer to Dr. Brown's video again about the foods to avoid if you want to lower your cholesterol levels, and you take a deep dive into each one of those foods that she mentioned, you would see that there is a prevailing theme in each one of those foods. Each one of those foods has a substantial amount of one or more than one of the dietary factors that I mentioned earlier. It either has a substantial amount of saturated fat, trans fat, cholesterol, or any combination of the three. And if you were to look at the general Trinidad and Tobago diet or the general Trinidad and Tobago food environment, you would see that a lot of the foods that are popular in Trinidad and Tobago and are ubiquitous in Trinidad and Tobago, as in they all around us, everywhere you turn, you can see a lot of the foods have either saturated fat, trans fat, cholesterol, or any combination of the three in amounts which will tend to lead the food item towards negative health outcomes.
We're not really happy about that.
So in short, I will agree with Dr. Brown that if you're looking to lower your cholesterol levels, doubles is a food item which if you have a cholesterol problem, you should approach doubles with great caution. As she said, enjoy it in moderation. Now, I tend to bristle when I hear moderation because moderation does not give much guidance to people, or it's not a really, in my opinion, it's not a real recommendation as to how much times to eat it. Usually, if I was to say, okay, with regards to doubles, if you have a cholesterol problem, at the most, you should eat it once a week. If you can eat it less times than that, even better, and ideally avoid it altogether. Because if you were to look back at Dr. Brown's video again, and you were to pick all the points that she made about doubles as to why doubles is a food item which tends to lean towards negative health outcomes. The high amount of fat, which is a problem if you are diabetic or if you're insulin resistant. The high amount of saturated fat in doubles, which is a problem if you have high cholesterol levels. And not to mention the high amounts of sodium that is in doubles. 900 milligrams in 2 doubles. And as she said, her recommendation of sodium is 1500 milligrams or less a day, which is in line with the American Heart Association. And hypertension, as I have said in many videos before, that hypertension is one of the scourges that we in Trinidad and Tobago are facing as a population. As a matter of fact, as I mentioned in another recent video, that hypertension, the prevalence of hypertension has increased from 26% to 29%. In 2011, the percentage of people who were being challenged with hypertension or what is known as high blood pressure was 26.3%. In 2024, that percentage increased to 29%. So in other words, the population of Trinidad and Tobago is going in the wrong direction with regards to hypertension. And it's no surprise to me because, as I said, consistently in all my videos throughout the channel, the food environment needs to change in order for us to have better health outcomes in the population. If it does not change, the NCD crisis will just continue to get worse and worse, and we're going to have to be spending more and more money for better health, whether it be out of our pockets or more money going to have to be allocated towards the Ministry of Health.
Madam Speaker, NCDs is one of the most critical elements facing this country. And our health budget went up from 3.08 billion in 2008 to 6.0 billion in 2019. That is unsustainable. We have to tackle NCDs.
But I would love to get your thoughts on it. What are your thoughts about doubles? And what are your thoughts on what I mentioned about doubles in this video? Do you agree with me? Or are you more like this girl?
Who asked you?
Don't forget to follow Dr. Brown on Instagram and TikTok. I will leave links in the description box below. If you made it this far in this video, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe to the channel for more videos like this. By liking and sharing this video, you help to get the message out of improving health by improving food environment. I thank you for watching again, and I'll see you soon.